And we are going in three, two, one. We're live. Hey guys, welcome to today's
Yo,
show of Talking Tines. I'm your host, Joe Kinney. You are watching Outdoors Obsessions, and today we have the Ranch Fairy. Ranch Fairy, why don't you just go ahead and start us out with where you're from, what you do, and how Ranch Fairy came about?
all right, great. Howdy, folks out there. I'm Troy Fowler. I live in Austin, Texas, and I started a YouTube channel about 4 years ago on a whim because I was having some trouble with arrow penetration, performance, et cetera, et cetera. And then I have a issue with me and the pigs. I like hunting the great big boars, and they just are not normal animals to penetrate. I have a YouTube channel called The Ranch Fairy, and it's getting out, which is really kind of hard to believe. I thought this would just be something that was hiding in a hole somewhere, but it has kind of blown up a little bit. It's pretty really fun. Just so you're wondering, I'm not some LBQTRFRA person. Um, I've been calling myself the Ranch Fairy for over a decade. We have a ranch in South Texas. I'm the ranch manager. So if toilets break and the AC goes out and the mule breaks or the feeders are out and the blinds have bees in them, I started calling myself, say, just call the Ranch Fairy. I'll fly down there, and I'll fix everything. And when I decided to start a YouTube channel, I am no marketing person whatsoever. But I just said, well, hell, I wonder, type into Google, and nothing came up. So you're either unique, you get the right sponsors, or whatever. But if your name is pretty normal, you get lost in the algorithms.
No,
And you really have to drive it. You really have to get on the bus and drive it. But if
100%.
you have a very unique name, which was a stroke of absolute fucking genius at the same time,
100%.
I said, how weird, and I don't really have a problem with other people. I probably have Asperger's syndrome. So I said, the hell with it, I'm going with the Ranch Fairy.
There
Because
you
it's
go.
so out there that people won't forget.
Yep.
So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I have a real job.
There you go. You know, I mean, I got, that that is honestly probably the best description I've ever heard of how so and so came about. So,
Yeah,
as I said, man, it's an honor to have you on the show today.
thank you.
And so where we're from here, up here in the
Yeah,
headquarters, we're from Iowa, where you're from
yeah,
down there in Texas.
yeah.
So when we're talking whitetails up here and we're talking whitetails down there, it's probably a lot different. I would have to. Now, this is just my assumption, but you guys probably have more or less like stalks down there, don't you? As opposed to you can go chill in a tree stand and try to do some deer hunting, or is it kind of a 50-50 down there?
It's 50-50. We don't, we bait, there's baiting's completely legal here. So
Sure.
it's
Okay.
98% private.
Okay. Well, hey, there you go.
So typically people are hunting over baited sets at no distance, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
There's not a lot of, I know some people who put in crops intentionally or fields and stuff like that, but typically it is a fed situation, whether by a truck down the roads or there's deer feeders by the gadzooks out here.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons, that's one of the things I leveraged. I killed about 150-inch deer probably in 2007 or 8,
Mm-hmm.
low fence with a friend of mine, and it just was a great story. It's a beautiful deer, and I lost all interest in shooting another deer.
Did you?
I haven't shot a deer since then.
Sure.
Now, I have 38 nieces and nephews. I have 2 sons and a daughter, and I take them, and so we have cameras and all that, and like everybody else does, you kind of start targeting a deer. And so if I take one of my 8-year-old nephews out and he shoots his deer down and blows a deer down with a 243, well, I'm there,
Right.
right? And I'm 51, so I'm getting too old for it. I'm either gonna go to North Dakota or Iowa with the hunting public guys.
Sure.
Now I want to try to kill a deer on public. I've
Yep.
never tried that. I've never hunted public ever,
Really?
except for elk and stuff, right? But I've never hunted deer public. So
Wow.
I'm gonna have them try to coach me through that.
There you go.
That's gonna be a train wreck. A
Get
Ranch
some-
Fairy public.
get some good walking boots there, buddy. You're gonna need it with
Yeah.
those guys.
Yeah. So
Because
it's
when it comes down to putting boots on the ground, man, they are no stranger to shame. They will put them to the ground.
Yeah. No, that's why I have an elk hunt and a mule deer hunt I'm going on with a friend of mine who drew some great tags. I did not draw the tags I wanted this year. And so I'm still training for that. So North Dakota will be in 5 weeks.
Sure.
And I'll be up there with Jake and the gang. I think Jake, I don't know who's going, but I'm going to go run around with those guys, at least get oriented, not so I don't get lost, and be sad.
There you go. What would be?
They were down pig hunting with me. I said, I haven't wanted to shoot a deer in forever, but to go public, and that's challenging.
That's a new challenge.
I'll come play with you guys.
That's a new challenge. And I would have to say that's probably the entire reason why I want to go and shoot a bighorn sheep or a ram.
Yep.
Because I could care less to shoot a sheep. I really could. It's a freaking sheep. If I want lamb chops, I'll go to the store. But to do the challenge of actually shooting a ram in its environment is extremely challenging, not only physically but for the actual hunt itself. And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna do that. So some years down the line, I've actually got it planned. Yeah, some years down the line, I've got it planned out to where I will actually be on a ram hunt out on the mountainside, and hopefully I get to pull back on one and release the arrow and drop it down.
If I was going sheep hunting, I'd be carrying a 300 Win Mag.
There you go. See, I still, even though as much as I would,
next time, that's what I would do.
As much as I would love to poke it, to shoot this thing at 300 plus yards with any rifle, and that might be the closest I can get is 200-300 yards. I'm still gonna be like that dumb guy that says, you know what, I gotta take my bow. But if I can draw a tag that'll say, okay, I can take both my bow and my gun, trust me, I'm taking a gun. Absolutely. Because I'm up there.
Too far to go. The expense is extreme, and if I was going, it was my first one, I'd probably rifle hunt. The hunt itself is going to be hard enough.
It is.
In that country.
The biggest thing that I like to laugh at, it's probably wrong, but I secretly laugh at it. But you'll see a guy's on a mountainside and he picks one up on the other side of the mountainside, and he goes, "Oh man, it's a 300-yard shot. No worries. Well, it took you 2 hours just to go 100 yards.
That's right.
You don't want to get a little bit closer, because when you shoot that thing, it's dead at 300 yards, not dead at 100 yards. So it's like, man, you guys got a long way to go to get that thing and to get it back over.
If there's a big crevasse in the middle, you could have to go around 2 miles or something. I've done that with an elk. It's a pain in the ass.
Yep, big time.
It's a tough deal. Yeah.
So, when it comes down to hunting pigs, this is something that you're well known for. What's your favorite tactic as far as going after them? You build some freaking crazy arrows, but would you prefer to go after them with the bow, or do you prefer to go after them with the gun?
No, I'd like to stalk them.
You like to stalk them?
They're real stalkable.
Sure.
They're just smart enough that you don't get away with it every time, but they're not a deer.
Yeah.
They're low to the ground. If the grass gets up about that high, you really got a chance. You get a shot 2 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Because it's position or what usually happens is you're stalking a bunch of them, and there's one over here with attention deficit disorder over there, and he doesn't know he's supposed to be over there.
Right.
And you're in there, and all of a sudden it goes, and there's just right there beside you, and goes, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And they blow up all over the place.
Have you ever been attacked by a hog while trying to shoot it or after shooting it?
No, I've been asked that question a lot. So there's 2 situations I've seen where people have issues. One is you're in real thick stuff. Mm-hmm. The only place to shoot is the trails. Mm. And you're out of shape and rather large, and you don't get out of the damn way because they're coming.
They're coming in hot.
The other one is, and there's a lot of these videos, if you ever see a guy hunting and the ground is stripped to the dirt as far as you can see, and the trees are mud on them this high, that's a trap.
Yeah.
There's a fence. Okay, there's a lot of fenced pig operations. It's fine. I don't care. Shoot them. It's fine. But the ones that survive for a year, they know what the hell's going on. They hear the truck door slam.
They know.
They've got some mean ones.
Yeah.
They flat out get some boars in that are just like, no, I'm not doing this.
Right.
And they come.
Wow.
So I've never had trouble, knock on wood, with any of them. And I've been snugged with a bunch of them in the thick booger stuff.
Yeah.
Usually they just bolt. They just leave.
Dude.
I've had one run, 2 feet by me with an arrow in him. But I was in the wrong place.
Sure.
He was leaving. And if I'd been in the way, he'd have moved me out of the way.
Right. You were on his exit trail and he was coming through no matter what.
He just plowed me down. It would have been fine.
when it comes down to, so you haven't hunted a deer since you got that 150 class. So you're big time pig hunter and you're a big time arrow builder. Which by the way, man, I've seen some of your stuff. It's just absolutely incredible. Being up here in Iowa, there's there's not a whole lot of people that are shooting these adult arrows that are
Yep.
over 550 grains. So,
Yep.
and I shared with you earlier how I did shoot through. I had a pass through on two shoulders through this big buck,
Yep.
with a mechanical broadhead. And not
Yes,
saying
sir.
that it can't be done, but I didn't mean to do that, and it was a true accident. But I do understand because I shoot a Easton Full Metal Jacket 5mm. I shoot it
Oh.
with a 100 grain broadhead.
Oh.
He says,
For
"Ugh."
all listeners out there, I hate Full Metal Jacket. It's
Do you?
the worst. It's a tomato stick. But good for you, bro.
But I've got a 25.5 inch straw. I've got these little T-Rex arms, and I'm shooting at 67 pounds. So I was very impressed that I was actually able to do what I did. I didn't do it on purpose, mind you, because I would never ever shoot a deer in the shoulder blade on purpose. And if anyone wants to say I will purposely do that, hey, good luck. But um, don't tell. We got Brock Williams says, "Don't tell him you shoot FMJ." Big fan of Mr.
Yeah, don't
Choice
tell
Howard.
me you shoot Full Metal Jackets. It's the worst.
You know,
Worst arrow ever.
I told you this because, Troy, you're real as it gets. I'm as real as it gets. If you got something that I'm gonna laugh at, I'm gonna laugh at it. If I got something you're gonna laugh at, you're gonna laugh at it. So that's one of the joys of doing the show too. So do you so for a 25.5 pound draw or 25.5 inch draw, 67 pound guy who's shooting
Yep.
260 feet per second, no, I'm sorry, I just recounted it the other day. I was shooting 260 with Easton Axis. Now I'm shooting
Okay.
250. I think I was shooting 250 feet per second with the Easton Full Metal Jackets.
Yep.
How can I make that situation better without going down to shooting like 150 feet per second per se? Because I don't have a whole lot of stretch.
I know. I've got women shooting through bull nil guy with a 43-pound bow pulling 24 inches. Bull nil guy weighs 600 pounds.
Wow.
They shoot 575 grain arrows.
Now, holy shit. Now does
They
that
move their pins.
now does that make
One,
it?
one lady shot a bull nil. She shot 6 or 7 nil guy and all the stuff in Africa, sables and all that stuff. She shot a bull nil guy at 40 yards and buried it to the fletch.
Now let me ask you this.
And a bull nil guy's 2 feet wide.
Wow. Now that is absolutely incredible. So let me ask you this. Now I understand with the heavier arrow, one's going to offer more kinetic energy, more FOC, and more all the jazz that you need to do something like that, which is what matters once it gets to the animal. That is 100%. I'll agree with anybody on that. But with the speed loss that you're losing out of that because you're pushing something so heavy, especially out of a 40-pound bow, is this going to be an arrow that literally goes from here and rainbows all the way over? Or what are you seeing for effects out of that?
Move your pins.
Move your pins? Okay.
30s, 30, 40s, 40, and the middle is 35.
Yep. What do you usually
There's a
set
lot
your
of
pins
people
at?
who worry about this stuff, and the one thing that arrows, the one thing I would encourage everyone to do is take a hammer and hit your chronograph and just throw that thing in the damn trash, because I don't know how the trad guys ever kill anything if we can't go. The biggest pig I've ever shot was 265 pounds. I don't have great big ones, and 300 would be astronomical. We just don't have any cropland.
Sure.
So they live pretty hard. Some years are good and green, just like deer horns, right? When it's green, they get big and fat, and then they lean out. Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So the biggest pig I ever shot was when I was first. It was about 2014. I was finally pissed off. I had just bounced a schwacker off a 200-pound pig at 17 yards. It literally hit and shook out of his side. Wow. Right in the shoulder. I mean, right on the crease. There was nothing there. And it just went donk and flew out. I said, I am freaking done. I'm just going to shoot him with a gun. I'm not doing this anymore.
Sure.
And I went off on my own. Didn't tell my friends. If your friends make fun of you, get better friends. And I built a 670 grain arrow with completely Ashby street legal, over 650, single bevel up front, FOC in the mid 20s, and the same pig came back 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And at 17 yards, it buried to the fletch, and I looked out the window of the blind, and I saw smoke. I saw dust, and he was down in 60 yards, and I
Wow.
never looked back. So
Wow.
on my obsession, no, not obsession, on my expedition, which is a 5-inch brace sight screamer, I'm running 760 grains,
Mm-hmm.
and on my elite cure, I'm running 640 at about 22% FOC.
What's your
So
poundage on your cure?
if I was going to suggest to you what to do, I would get an Axis,
Mm-hmm.
okay, lower GPI.
Sure.
I put a 100 grain insert in that thing, and a Magnus buzz cut on the front.
So you're a big time firm believer in the single bevel broadheads.
Those things are the only reason I'm a huge proponent of Iron Will and Magnus stuff because it's replaceable.
Okay.
If you can't sharpen, do not buy single bevel broadheads.
Sure.
Do not go in the woods with a half-ass sharpened single bevel because the ranch fairy said single bevels are awesome.
Right.
If you go with a dull broadhead because you can't sharpen stuff, don't go impress your friends with your single bevel and all that stuff. Just buy an Iron Will, buy a Magnus, something like that. It's replaceable, so the blades are sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the single bevel broadheads are just when things don't go right,
Yes.
they exceed. When things go right, everything works. I
Sure.
will not deny there are millions of deer going to get killed this fall with a mechanical on 350 grain arrow.
Mm.
I got it, but there's going to be so many bonks,
Yeah.
and I don't bonk stuff anymore.
Sure.
When it bonks, they roll.
They
It breaks
roll.
their back.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we got a couple comments coming out. We got actually one of our guys on the show. Actually, two of our guys on the show. Brock is commenting. Do you do any live trapping?
I don't own my place because I like to shoot them too much. It's no fun.
Logan Beach comes out by saying building nothing but party packs, momentum over speed. Heaviest arrow I've seen personally is 738 grains. Aaron Mudd built some telephone poles for an 80 pounder, and then Brock Williams says groundhogs.
Yeah, right.
So what poundage is your elite?
Both of my bows are 65 and 28 and a half.
Okay.
I just shoot that draw length and draw length because I already know I can
Sure.
put arrows on it. I already know what it runs.
What is the furthest shot that you will actually now? Being as you said you stalk them most of the time, you're probably stalking them in the timber where it's nothing but trails. What is the furthest out that you personally can shoot where you're comfortable at shooting
60.
See?
Yeah.
Nice.
43 is the longest shot I've made hunting stalking. I don't usually shoot far. If it's 40 yards, I usually don't shoot.
Sure.
That's my personal thing.
Right.
Because in my videos, I constantly see the animals moving.
Okay.
As the arrow's in the air.
Yes.
So I figure every 10 yards, that is just going to get worse.
Sure.
And so I don't do it for the sake of shot placement.
Yeah. So what do you do?
I may put the arrow on target, but the animal moves 7 inches and
you're
screwed.
absolutely completely right. Absolutely right. Brock says, I'm a 30-inch draw, shooting 65-pound, chronographed at 272. I'm very curious on all this arrow talk. I've always been the guy that if it works, don't change it. Just give me an idea of what I can do. I'm always open to new ideas.
250 spine arrow, 100 grain insert, and between 125 and 175 grain point. That'll be a sledgehammer. And with a 30-inch draw, your power stroke is so long, you're not going to see a massive velocity drop. Most people all the hunting public guys came up, and when they were at the ranch last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, we bumped them 100, 150 grains, and they had 20 yards. It was no difference. They didn't move their sights.
Really?
Maybe an inch.
Nice.
So between 20 and 40, it's really not. It doesn't go. People think that they go like this, and it's all about impact.
Right.
So speed is constantly eroding. Mass never erodes.
Sure.
Ever.
And that makes complete sense. And
one of my subscribers, Big Mike Tanaka, the wizard, shoots 83 pounds and 31-inch draw. And he shot a bunch of arrows through a chrono at 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And his 435 grain arrow lost 40 feet per second, and a 1,000 grain arrow lost 10.
Wow.
So
That's
What's
unreal.
funny about the velocity thing is you're doing muzzle velocity. Okay?
Sure.
You're shooting it, the chrono's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not finding out what it is at 25 or 40 and what speed erosion there is. So if you have little short arms and you're shooting 255 feet per second with a power stroke that's, what is your bro? It's probably 7-inch brace height. So
Sure.
you got a 19-inch power stroke, right? What's the velocity at 40 if you shoot 40? Is it acceptable speed at 40 despite the muzzle velocity?
Right. Let's see. So we've got Patrick McGeever Jr. Sorry if I mispronounced that, boss. Says shoot what works for you, brother. I'm a 30.5-inch draw, shooting 60 to 70 pounds. What would be a good setup for me? I currently have a 560, 550 grain arrow.
Nothing. Does it shoot straight? Put a cut-on contact on that thing and blow them down. That's a great arrow.
Right.
Guys with long arrows artificially have heavy arrows because they're long.
Right, because they have like me. I have. So you see my boy Andrew Fulmer sitting there. He says short arms. That's you, Bo Kenny. 100%. It's been joked with that I shoot bolts out of my bow because I have such a short draw length. So when I have that short draw length, I'm shooting these basically lawn darts. Where you're 100% right. I tell them on the range all the time. I sell bows and guns for a living. I tell them all the time on the range that you guys are so lucky because you have so much more arrow there. Where I'm only getting half the arrow that you're getting.
Yeah, but the advantage to a short arrow is you could blow your FOC up. It will escalate. A 30-inch guy to get to 20% FOC is very hard.
Very hard.
We're talking about a 650, 700 grain arrow to get there. It's math.
Yeah.
It works against you. If you get a victory VAP, something light, like 8 grains per inch,
right?
Put 250 on the front, you're going to be at 500 grains, but you're going to have 250. Where's my hand? 250 grains in that big.
Wow.
At impact, that's this much of it is 250 grains hitting the meat, not across length. So I use this analogy a lot. We've all hit a nail with a hammer.
Sure.
When you don't hit it plumb, it goes sideways.
100%.
Okay. When you have a very heavy arrow pushing a broadhead and it hits a round rib and turns a little bit, the shaft goes like that in the air. And so it's going in and has to correct and rub on the sides. If you put 250 grains in a spot that big, it is like a sledgehammer.
Wow.
And it pulls the arrow.
See,
so
I remember.
You won't believe the arrow fly. You got to try it. You want to shop? Try it, man.
Oh, I'll have to try it. No doubt. I am not opposed to trying anything.
300's fine, though.
300's fine. Okay.
Oh,
and absolutely, because that I do know, being as I build arrows and I sell arrows and whatnot, the more weight that you put up front, the more it weakens the spine. So you have to have a stiffer spine in order to do that, Jazz. For those that are watching or those that don't understand, let's just we'll kind of go back to a recent comment that you just made earlier. What is FOC?
It's the weight forward of center on the arrow. So you take an arrow, you balance it in the middle. That would be a very balanced arrow. Your arrow is about 8%.
Sure.
Your 4-metal jacket's 8% because the shaft is very heavy and the point is very light.
Right.
Okay. The shafts I shoot with 350 grains up front, the FOC is about 20 or 21%.
Okay.
And that's the amount of weight beyond center of the arrow forward that the arrow carries.
Okay.
And so we're loading the front and we're basically creating a 350 grain bullet pulling a tail. It's completely backwards from the psychology of archery. The archery world, the traditional archery world, the shot to the target archery world doesn't care about this because it doesn't matter when you're shooting spots. Although, don't tell anyone. The inside guys who shoot 20-yard spots often shoot 200 grain nibs that are glued in and don't look like it. Just don't tell anyone.
Correct.
That. And why are they shooting a 200 grain point at 20 yards at a spot the size of a 50-cent piece? Well, one of my friends who's a target guy told me that they're more accurate. And I said, then you're a dumbass, because your hunting setup is 350 grains. Is it as accurate? And he did not answer me.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, why are you shooting for accuracy a 500 grain arrow with a front loaded tip when you don't do that hunting? Is
Sure.
accuracy, does it matter? And he said, I'll be fine. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see you later. I don't go in that shop anymore. They don't like me. But my channel, all of this started, y'all, whoever's listening, y'all are probably thinking I'm insane, and that's fine. It's very common. The ranch theory. This all began because of failures. Okay? I killed a deer. We talked about it earlier. 2006 or 8, scores 150. It's a nice straight up clean 10. And I forgot deer hunting. I couldn't care to shoot another deer since then. I just don't care to shoot them.
Sure.
But I really started targeting great big adult feral hogs, and they are built like a tank. And I was 30% at one time with normal setups. And I'm talking, this is a feeder shot.
Wow.
It's 17 yards. When they get on bait, you get whatever angle you want. It's not like the public thing where you're swinging out of a tree and a deer walks by and you got to take it.
Right.
You can just sit there.
You got your most perfect opportunity set up for you.
Correct. And I was 30% on pigs over 200 pounds at one time.
Wow.
I almost quit. I just kept bonking them. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I think I had a lot of blade damage early.
Sure.
Shooting muzzies and thunderheads and broadheads that had .035 blades. I think after doing a ton of autopsies, if you haven't been to my channel, it's the Ranch Fairy channel. I have autopsies on a bunch of my videos where I show the internal organs and the chest walls, and I'm a respiratory therapist, and I've had a human heart and lungs in my hand for 6 months because I had a cadaver in school. So I know a lot about that stuff. And it's actually been a kind of an interesting hit on my channel, but I believe that the blades were eroding on impact and they weren't cutting anything, because I was getting a third of the arrow in them, and they're not real wide.
Sure.
The thoracic cavity where the lungs are on a big pig, it may be this thick from skin to thoracic wall. It may be, I've measured one that was 5.5 inches of stuff to the rib cage.
Sure.
Break the rib cage, but it's really only 9 inches wide. They're real tall in their chest, but they're thick on the outside.
Right.
They're like an M&M with a super coating.
With a really good center.
Right. Sand, mud, hair, meat. The ribs are never wider than your thumb.
And you got a lot of shit to go through.
Correct. Next time you got a rack of ribs in front of you, measure the piece of meat that you're eating. It won't be over 1 inch.
I'll have to look at that.
You shoot, yeah, right. Next time you do it, or you're cooking them, just go, wow, the Ranch Fairy said that. He's right. Look at that. And that's 1,000-pound pig you're eating.
Wow.
The big ones, the ones we eat commercially, are big.
Right.
So I think the blades, well, I'm damn well convinced of it, that the blades were hitting the pigs, eroding, they were blunt, and they went in the chest, and it didn't really cut them good, and they ran off, and they lived.
Wow.
I don't think I was killing them.
Sure.
And then I started upgrading to a .07 or .08 thick single level, hand sharpened, stropped on leather to where it'll shave and hair jumps off, not on the blade, jumps off the blade. And I started torching them.
Wow.
And I think it's the survivability of that big steel.
Sure.
I really do believe it. So that was one of the things. Dr. Ashby, I'm friends with Dr. Ed Ashby. I'm also on the Ashby Foundation. So when y'all get done with this, go look up the Ashby Foundation, and we have an Ashby Foundation YouTube. He and I have discussed this round and round and round. And he says something very interesting. He said, gosh, I wish we could get the ones we lost.
Yeah.
Because we'd know more if we could find the fails.
Absolutely.
When you plug them through the side and the mech opens up and there's a 4-inch gash and blood sprays out both sides, we don't really learn anything. We know that shot worked.
Right.
But the ones that bonk and take 5 hours or are gone, God, if we could find them
Oh yeah.
and get the arrow back, you'd go,
100%.
wow, okay, I know what that's it. I know what happened. Look at that.
Yep.
But that was what happened. So I think that's the biggest key. So that's why I started the channel is I made this move. I shot every arrow on earth. I went to Africa with 410 grain arrows. I shot the black wildebeest right there
That's a beaut.
with the original Rage
Wow.
right across the top of the heart at 21 yards. It was right out of the Rage channel.
Wow.
I mean, it went in, hit, blood shot 4 feet out the side of him.
Jeez.
I was like, these things are the best.
Right.
And then I brought them back, and nah, they didn't the best me after that. But
they were good, but they weren't as good as they needed to be.
They're not good in Plan B.
Wow.
Listen, there's nothing more impressive than a mechanical broadhead that opens up, hits the rib cage, cuts a 4-inch wide hole in them. Dude, from a respiratory therapy standpoint, that's a dead freaking animal.
Absolutely.
In the rib cage, 10 inches of penetration, they work. I'm not going to ever deny that.
Yep.
But I have now, as I've evolved, now, dude, I am just like, go ahead and drop. Please drop.
Right.
I don't have to track.
Yes. I've
just break them.
Out of all the deer that I've shot, I've watched 2 of them drop and 1 of them get woozy and whatnot. And the ones that I haven't watched drop, they didn't go too much further. I would range those ones from around the corner anywhere from 35 up to 150 yards.
Yep.
I remember my first doe, and I remember, so again, remember, a lot of my deer that I've shot, I've shot 2 with the Easton Axis, and all the other ones after that have always been the Easton Full Metal Jacket. And we got a couple questions on here as far as the Full Metal Jackets go. We'll get to those here in 1 second. But the very first deer that I shot,
by the iron will collars. Okay, there you go. Keep going. Sorry.
The first deer I ever shot with a Full Metal Jacket, I legitimately watched her stumble before she took off running, and I was like, that's it. That's why I went from an Axis to a Full Metal Jacket. Cause I figured, okay, I'm at the peak of what I can do. So if I go a little bit heavier, I can gain a little bit more kinetic energy, but that's about as where I can go, because at the time, that's where my knowledge was at. So I figured if I go from an Easton Axis to a Full Metal Jacket, I'm going to top myself out, and I'm going to hit them as hard as I can possibly out of my setup. And that's what I did, and it did work 100%. She went 40 yards, but I just remember watching her stumble. It was absolutely incredible. This buck right here, this is my first buck I ever shot. I shot him at 7 yards, quartering away, and I shot him with an Easton Axis with a four-bladed Muzzy. And it was after this hunt that I switched from the 4-blade Easton or Muzzy, I'm sorry, from the 4-blade over to my mechanicals. I shot him through the guts, quartering away. I pulled it off a little to the right, or too far to the right, and I exited through his armpit. And it was an hour and a half later that I found that guy.
Yeah, that's a gut, liver, 1 lunger there. That's a tough one.
That's exactly what it was. And you would be surprised. Actually, you might not be surprised, but most people would be surprised that this deer was shot in 2 acres of timber, which you can see from corner to corner to corner, and it's nothing but hundreds of acres of cornfield all around it. I could not find that deer. It took me and a few of my other buddies to come and actually find this deer. He actually started walking back to my tree stand, and I got into the timber again, dove in there real quick on the entry trail that he was coming in on, and I pulled back on him, and I watched him drop and take his last breath. But that was my first buck, and it was absolutely amazing. Rattled him in. But it was after that I decided I need to go with a heavier setup, and I need to go with a better shooting broadhead, because 100.
Do you bear shaft?
Do I bear shaft? Absolutely. I have bear shaft.
So I have Full Metal Jacket bear shafts at 20 yards, perfect.
It did for me. It did for me. But I paper tune all of my bows. I bear shaft it and I paper tune it. And I get the best flight possible that I need to get out of every bow that I sell and out of my bow.
Well, that's why you're probably having okay luck with the Full Metal Jacket, because you bear shaft.
Sure. And actually, I'm glad you brought up the bear shaft. So Because in my book, 100%, if you have any kind of broadhead, let's throw on any broadhead on any arrow, any weight. The number one thing is to make sure that broadhead and your tune is field tip accurate.
Yeah. There's not enough of that. I've been getting, I bet you I've gotten 30 emails while we've been talking from people bear shaft. I've got a kit through Serious Archery that has 2 different spines and 100 grain insert and then random field points from 100 to 200 grains. And it allows you to change dynamic spine and bear shaft it to shoot into your bow.
Yep.
Because I don't know what your draw length is, how fast your bow is, all that stuff, right?
Sure.
And that's how I do it. And once I discovered bear shaft tuning, Big Mike's been a big help on that, and also knock tuning. I get my arrows flying bear shaft out to 20, and then fletchings don't work. I mean, they work, but they don't have to work. How's that?
Right.
They just correct you when it's cold or whatever. And you haven't had 17 warm-up shots before you had a deer come by.
Your fletchings save your inaccuracies at the most valuable time needed, whether it be on the spots or it be on the animal.
Rather than correcting for crappy arrow flight and the arrow takes off like this.
Yep.
And then they got to do their job. I get a lot of questions saying, hey, will it steer? I shoot, I've already told you I shoot over 40 grains on 2 different bows, and I shoot 1.5 inch long feathers that are 1/2 inch tall.
Right.
4 fletch.
So.
And that's it.
All right. Let's go ahead and get over to some comments here. So first one is, question, shooting heavier arrow will pass through power still be high percentage at 30-35 yards?
It'll go up. Absolutely. Yep.
At 33 yards, and with 100%.
At 100.
At 100. I shot a doe at 33 yards and I had a full bow pass through at her. So if I can do it with full metal jacket, you can definitely do it with one of Ranch Fairy's setups that he was talking about.
let me clarify. You're a bear shaft tuner.
No.
There's a lot of people out there who don't bear shaft. They just fletched through paper, and that arrow's not flying as good as the one you're talking about.
Right.
So your impact is absolutely plumb.
Correct.
And it is a massive contributor to speed and impact efficiency when the arrow doesn't take off like this.
Right.
And then correct it 12 yards and finally get plumb.
Right.
If you want, like I said, nobody shoots them a chrono at 20 to find out how crappy their speed is.
I've told so many people whenever they come in and say, "Hey Joe, I want a bow," and then I say, "Okay, I'm gonna take the day, I'm gonna tune it, I'm gonna get it to where it needs to be, and then we'll go over on the range and start things up." And those that don't know, they say, "So why do you need a paper tune it?" And because if it's just flying down, I'm like, well, listen, if it's just willy wampusing down here, 1, you're losing all your kinetic energy. 2, your tip ain't doing you jazz. And if you think about it, you need everything going straight, because you're not going to win a race by throwing your arms all around running down the track. You're going to run as fast as you can and as straight as you can.
That's a great analogy. Yep.
So that's our number one keep it simple stupid analogy there at B&B. So our next guy says, it's Beeves, which is a good friend of ours. He says, why are FMJs bad?
Because they explode. I've got pictures of 20 or 30 FMJs that have come apart. The hip insert system is one of the worst systems for hard impacts on the earth. For hard impacts. If you hit them right, remember, I already said this 15 times. If you hit them right in the rib cage, in the soft spots, it's fine. Yep. They work. I'm not going to argue with anybody there. I don't plan for perfect. When I hit them with a 700 grain arrow with a single bevel perfect, they're just as dead as anybody's deer or pig or whatever. But I know when they drop, they're in freaking trouble.
Big time.
And it just keeps happening over and over again. I shot one pig last, I don't remember what it was, probably 18 months ago on video. And I had my golf bag. So I had 2 500s. I had like a 650 and I had a 740 or something in there, just in case.
Sure.
And this boar comes out. He weighed 185, and he would not turn, and he was real jumpy. I mean, he was just twitching all over the place, and I knew he wasn't going to stand still.
Right.
So I took the 525 or whatever I had, I put it in the quiver, I pulled the 720 out. Now remember, this is different spines and stuff. It can be done. It's not the same arrow with more weight. I spined up and they're bare shaft tuned, and I said, he's going to jump.
Yep.
And I said, fine. And I turned it loose, and he spun, and it hit his spine and flipped him right over. And
boom.
It's just the way I do stuff. I'm out there. I mean, that's an outlier.
That's a whole lot of ouch coming his way real quick.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. On to Tim Harper. I have a 32-inch draw shooting 70-pound draw. I currently shoot the Black Eagle Rampage topped with a 100-grain Twacker. Should I start shooting heavier on the front end? I tend to blow through deer currently, and my longest shot has only been 33 yards, but it did bust the shoulder and rock through both lungs.
Well, you've got a massive power stroke, and you already have a pretty heavy arrow. You're probably shooting a 250 spine. Can you ask him? He's got to be shooting.
Hey, Tim, if you're still listening, you're shooting a 250 spine? Are you? While we wait for him to comment down here, we will go on to, all right. Patrick says, Tim Harper, shoot a fixed blade, dude. You will destroy a deer with that. Tim says, I shoot Schwacker and G5 Montec. Brock says, I'm currently in the hand load phase. What is a good glue?
Hey, a fairy duster.
Oh, yeah. He says, what is a good glue hot melt to use for switching out inserts?
JB Weld.
Well, if you're hitting them that hard, you kind of need it. To be honest, what we use at the shop, whenever I'm putting in inserts into carbon arrows, we use a 5-minute epoxy. It works 10 times better than
JB. They just let them sit overnight. I've
There
done it for years. That's Dr. Ashby and me. He said that man shot more big animals, buffaloes and all kind of things, and buffalo and all that stuff. And he said, dude, for impact, JB Weld. So I flipped over to JB Weld, but any epoxy that's 2 parts, usually pretty elastic. You don't want anything hard.
No, you need it
you don't
to
want
absorb.
Super glue, or you want something that's relatively pliable.
Yes.
So it can absorb impact and won't explode or whatever. What's going to happen is it'll mushroom.
Yeah.
So it'll push back into the shaft and you're done.
Yep.
I mean, the shaft just goes like that.
Yep. And nothing's worse than on a day of losing a critter and losing an arrow. That's just a kick in the balls.
Well, it's when you get the arrow in your hand, you look at it and just go, the arrow exploded.
Yep.
That's terrible.
Yep.
That's low structural integrity, and that should not be the failure problem. Sometimes, listen, guys and gals out there, you're going to pull a shot. You're going to hit one weird. You're going to misjudge yardage. The wind's going to blow. You're going to shoot one through the middle. You're going to shoot them low in the brisket. That's going to happen. Okay, so if you decide to listen to the fairy and go 550 and shoot a Magnus buzz cut or a single bevel, I can't fix what happens to you when you're hunting. Okay, that's fine. We're all human.
Yep.
Easy now, right? But the last thing you want is to see the arrow stop and fall out or explode.
Yeah.
That's on you. It is. And there are solutions for that. If you hit them right, everything works. I've said it 10 times. I'll probably say it 10 more times. I got you.
Yep.
I've done it, man.
Yep.
Right? It's just a different world. Over 550, 20% FOC, 17% FOC, and a cut-on contact broadhead is a completely different animal for accuracy. And then the minute it hits meat.
Yep.
You could take your FMJ, lower the grains per inch, load the front and weigh the same and lose no speed and gain 10% in FOC. And probably your accuracy would go up.
Wow. That's incredible.
Because you bear shaft tune too. I mean, you're a total pointy hat nerd if you're bear shafting at 20 yards. That's not normal.
We got one of the boys from the crew says this man is going to have people killing deer all over Iowa this year. Damn straight. And we got Heath Cornett.
It's fun to get the pictures in. Last year was the first year I really got a lot of photographs in, and I got people who said, I've never had a pass through in my life. Yeah. And I shot through this deer. It buried 10 inches in the ground. The deer didn't jump. He ran 50 yards, looked at me, and tipped over. And that's another thing you'll see when you hit them with a mechanical lower 1/3 right on the crease. That is so, and you go across all the major vessels. So they're not going to be able to run. Right. They're going to go into, the cardiac shock is unbelievable. But when you watch videos from now on the mechanical people, and you watch those deer run, they're hauling ass.
Oh yeah, they're getting out of
They
dodge. They
are
just got shot.
hauling ass.
Yep.
You shoot one with a Magnus or an Iron Will or a single bevel, and it just and sticks in the dirt. They just don't go as hard.
I have seen deer where they're really confused as to what just happened, and then they take off, or they just end up dropping there. You know, I don't have him up on the wall yet. He's still buried in my backyard. I'm actually going to be, so you'll have to watch that video. Oh, you know, 2 weeks in advance, I'm going to kind of spoil it for everyone that's watching it real quick. But when I shoot a deer, and if I'm not going to go, like this one, the reason why his face is missing, I was training my dog how to shed hunt. And I closed the door, and this thing fell off the wall. And so I was like, oh crap. So I left my door open, looked at my wife, hey, I'm going to run up Menards real quick, get some of these command hooks. Let me tell you what, man, command hook, best way to hang up a skull all day long. I left it there, and I come home, and my dog is in my room eating the face of my first buck, which, you know what? It was my fault, 100%. I couldn't be mad. He found what I've been trying to train him to find. But what I was really happy about was he left the antlers alone. So I got lucky. That's how far I was before I was losing the antlers of the very first buck I did. However, I got my
first. It was going pretty good. You know, the horns are hard to beat.
They are. Well, I've got a 13 point.
You try to do the ant pile thing, and some coon gets a hold of them and drags them down the hill or whatever.
I've got a 13 point in the backyard that I've buried. I like how they come out. You kind of see it's kind of bronze a little bit. Yep. I bury them, and here in about 2 weeks I'm going to be unburying that, and it's my first Pope and Young. That deer, I shot it. I know, I'm sorry, Brock, with the squirrel moments. My bad. Anyway, I shot that deer, and he went 10 yards. And I was supposed to be at work on time that day. I was not. I was not on time. I texted the boss, hey, deer down, buck down, right in front of me. However, there's like this monster tree in front of me, you know, like 48 inches wide, and he fell behind that. And I texted my boss, hey, deer down. And he says, are you positive? You should probably shoot that again. I'm like, I can't. He's behind a tree, man. And I know he's down. I haven't taken my eyes off it. I'm literally texting as I'm watching it. And my buddy, he's up the hill. He sees me. He goes, hey, you want me to come down and check? I'm like, no, we ain't doing this. Because that was the same week that I lost that one that I double shoulder punched. But he went 10 yards. And to watch a deer that you hit so hard react so like, whoa, what happened? And then before you know, he's like, yeah, ain't doing so good, man. I don't feel good dancing. And face down. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's just massive shock from hitting him in the right spot. You probably severed one of the major muscles in his heart.
Well, and you know what? And I did check his heart. I missed his heart, but what I do think is what you just said. I think I ended up hitting that saddle because when I shot him, and you can go and see the video. It's called Buck Fever, episode 5 of Buck Fever. When I shot him, there was blood 5 feet either direction on the entry and the exit wound, and he just
that's a major vessel.
Yep. He turned around, stood up on his hind legs, took 2 steps up the hill backwards, and then face down.
That's perfect.
It was 100% like, holy shit, that just happened.
Yeah, right.
I got a couple guys messaging me here real quick. He wants me to ask you a question here. He says, if knuckle draggers like me, 32-inch draw, benefit more from a heavier arrow weight and FOC, but 60-pound or less draw weight, or normal arrow weight with 70-pound draw. I found I can't get both. Point weight weakens my spine too much at 70 pounds. I have to shoot 60 pounds or less with 200 total grains in the front of a 250 spine.
Your bow needs to be worked on, brother. I shoot 400 grains on a 250 spine at 65 pounds. So is it 32-inch draw you said?
It was a 32-inch draw.
Oh, you might need a 200 spine.
Yeah.
So dynamic spine is something you know about. A lot of people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Dynamic spine is when you hit the release, how the arrow flexes on your bow, your setup, the way you hold it. The arrow flex is different for me and you.
Yes.
It is not consistent.
You cannot sight in someone else's bow due to that.
You cannot set up somebody else's bow. It is impossible. I mean, you can to a certain level, but you can't.
100%.
Static spine is the number that's on the shaft, and they bend it at a certain distance. I think it's 28 inches, and they measure how far it sags, and that's it. It's a standard. But a 32-inch guy pulling a 250 spine arrow, and you shooting a 250 spine arrow, you're shooting. Well, actually, it's easier this way Go get a piece of 3/4 inch PVC that's 8 feet long and cut it in half.
Mm-hmm.
Grab it, go like this, shake it, and cut it in half. And then the 4-foot piece, shake that. That's dynamic spine.
Yep.
Except when you hit the trigger, it goes from static state to 250. So it just goes, where?
Yep.
And you can't shoot, somebody else cannot shoot your bow in.
Right.
So the longer arrows are already heavy. Everyone benefits from FOC. The longer arrows are harder to get there because it's math.
Mm-hmm.
It's just math. Your arrows are bolts. Your FOC will just catapult. If you take your FMJ, like I said, get an axis, load the front, just make it the same weight.
Okay.
The FOC will jump 10%.
Wow.
From 8 to 17. And it'll be a damn dart.
Wow. That's
and
incredible.
It'll just be a sledgehammer on impact, and put the max on there. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it'll just be a different system altogether.
Yeah. I'm not against trying this because as someone who sells bows and whatnot, I do love the FMJs. Even talking with you, I still love the FMJ, but I'm not against trying this. I tinker and I want to hit it as hard as I can because, again, I have a 25.5-inch draw. How hard?
You don't impress me, dude. Man, Rob Nielsen's wife shoots 42 pounds at 24 inches and shoots through Blue Nail Guy.
That's crazy.
You're hunting deer.
And, my wife.
Kids that are shooting I got 2 kids last year shooting 30 pounds, and they got pass-throughs on deer in Iowa.
Wow, that's crazy. But
they're shooting a 400 grain arrow at 30% with a 280 grain point.
Wow, that's crazy.
One kid was 17 yards, 32 pounds. He had a 310 grain point, and his arrow weight was still only about 430.
Wow.
And shot right through a big doe.
Yep.
I mean, just smoked her.
All day.
And we've got one lady who shot at Cape Eland last year. She got 39 inches of penetration on an animal weighed a ton.
Wow, that's crazy.
She's shooting 600. And then we just had a lady shoot a Asian buffalo, which is the ones that have the horns that curve like this.
Yes.
So Asiatics are like that. Capes, everybody knows. And then there's these Asian ones that have real tight horns. That animal weighed a ton.
Wow.
She shot it with a 55-pound bow with an 800 grain arrow with an Ashby single bevel, 315 grain single bevel right there.
Wow.
It hit the pelvis.
That's
she got
insane.
7 feet of penetration.
That's a lot. That's a lot of shit to go through.
Fantastic.
That's a Texas hard shot reversed.
Yeah. And it's amazing what you can do.
It is. So, Heath Cornett running only 8.85% FOC. He himself as well shoots the FMJs. So I'm sure after this talk we're going to be changing up. I've already got a text from Brock. We're changing his stuff up.
Listen to the FMJ guys. I did this with Grant from the Hunting Public when he came to the ranch. He came in with FMJs. I almost broke them, but I felt bad, so I set them to the side. And all I did was give him a 300 spine carbon arrow. Mm-hmm. We were shooting 340, shooting 65 pounds at about 27.5 inches. He's left-handed, don't mention that. And it doesn't matter. And I put a 300 spine arrow in his hand. They had 100 grain inserts in them, and I had a 125 grain Magnus buzz cut, and his arrow mass only went up 25 total grains.
Wow. But
his FOC went from 8 to 18%.
Wow, that's incredible.
He had 225 grains in the front.
Wow.
And he shot through a 190-pound sow like lightning bolt. It was 8 inches in the dirt.
Wow.
Incredible. And so you don't have to necessarily listen. I shoot outrageous. I really like the heavy stuff, and you have to I like 200 grain broadheads because they're absolute battle axes.
Yep.
They are completely a different animal. But that being said, to the FMJ guys, just get the same mass and front load it. Spine up one level, unless you're already shooting a 300 or 250, and just so you can keep your speed.
Yep.
But just load the front a little bit and get the same arrow mass, and then bare shaft it. And I don't. If you don't want to shoot 650 grains, that's fine.
Right.
But load the front.
Yeah.
And
you said it best the other day on THP whenever you're with them, because I watched that, but you said it best there where you say let the broadhead drive the arrow. And is that what you
Yeah.
said? Let the broadhead drive the arrow?
Yeah.
So we've
So it's a
got,
bullet pulling the tail.
right.
So we are reverse engineering the system.
Yeah.
We are putting a ton of weight in the front, and it's this big, whoa, that big, and it's a very small center of gravity at impact. This is the biggest disconnect between Dr. Ashby, me, the Ashby Foundation, and the whole industry. Most of the people who are pros were some kind of a target person, and they have a target background. It doesn't make a damn bit of difference if the arrow goes in that far or this far in a 3D target. You just mark the 12 and keep moving.
Yeah.
It matters a lot when you're shooting deer.
100%. You got foam, or you got something that you want to bring home. 100%.
Right. So we only focus on what is the most efficient impact tool on unknown things.
Right.
You can't predict what you're going to hit. Never will you be able to do that. So we do that. We say this projectile, Dr. Ashby's study is only 30 years long, 30 years. And it opened up the whole continent of Africa, by the way.
Nice.
So there were 2 countries when he started the study that were open to bow hunting because they had no ways or means laws, which means you can shoot stuff with anything. Wow. Cannons, black powder, whatever.
Right.
The whole continent in the 80s was closed to bow hunting. Dr. Ashby's study was the South African Game Board said, we want to see if a bow and arrow will kill something. And he happened to be in the right place. The story's fantastic, but he happened to be in the right place at the right time. And the first thing he shot for them was a rhino.
Wow. So every bow hunter that has stepped foot on the African continent, every bow hunter that wants to go to Africa and bow hunt, needs to say, thanks, Dr. Ashby, for doing this.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, you're going to go over there with a 7 mil. You're going to go out there with a 300 something. So it's due to Dr. Ashby's research, which may have come from some other guy later down the road, but it could have been 50 years from now. But he was there. So you guys, whoever's ever been in Africa, needs to say, hey, thanks, bud.
And I'll tell you one thing that's interesting about him. So he broke his back he was still in the study, and in the Ashby Foundation, we have 3 pages of notes that we're still trying to fulfill that he wants us to do.
Sure.
It's not over.
Wow.
It just stopped because he broke his back. He fell off a mountain hunting sheep, and he couldn't continue the study.
Right.
So we're planning as the foundation to go back to Australia and do what he did. Asiatic buffalo. Mm-hmm. You take a 416, boop, and then start testing.
Right.
You have a 30-minute window.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get to bow hunt them too. So
that's badass.
But we're going to have big guns. We're going to be culling. We'll shoot them, and we'll have 30 minutes to test, and then do the next test.
Right.
Talking to him, and he and I are good friends now. Right at the end of the study, he finally got an arrow shaft that was light enough grains per inch to get 30% FOC.
Wow.
This is super pointy. Now he's shooting a stick bow. He's shooting a long bow during the study, most of it. So already, because you can shoot a 400 spine arrow with 400 grains up front because it doesn't push as hard as a compound, you can get higher FOC.
Sure.
Okay. He'd always ran 800-900 grain arrows. I think he shot the first rhino with 1,200 and the second one with 900. But don't quote me on that. But he finally got an arrow that was 655, 30% FOC because of carbon. So before the study, there's no carbon.
Sure.
He had aluminum and wood, and then carbon comes along. Okay. He shot the biggest buffalo he said he's ever killed with a 655 grain arrow out of a longbow, 18 yards, 15 yards, something like that, and it was hanging on by the fletch.
Wow.
On the other side.
Wow.
And he said, the FOC is the magic.
Yep.
That's why these kids are shooting 410 grain arrows at 30% because they can load the front.
Right.
And they're blowing right through deer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
He's the best guy ever. I mean, the guy is just the best. You'd think somebody who's got that much knowledge, he was a PH, big dangerous game guy, all that stuff. You think he would be stuck in the mud. This is the way it's going. That's it. Right? You think that he does not have an attitude at all.
Really? Just like you and
Yeah.
I is just, eh.
You wanna call him? He'd probably get on.
Oh, dude, I'm going to do that. I'm going to
I'll,
have
I'll get you his contact information. He loves to do podcasts and stuff. But
absolutely.
and the stories are fantastic. I mean,
Wow.
just being in Zimbabwe in the in the '80s and doing whatever you want to do and running
Right.
around and running into the wrong guys with AK-47s and stuff.
Wow.
And the stories are fantastic. But he is not. Everybody's like, well, that guy's this, that, and the other. No, he's super humble.
Wow.
And he will continue to say, I would suggest that you shoot a 650 grain arrow with a single bevel broadhead that's flying perfect. That's what I would suggest.
Right.
But if you don't want to, that's fine. But if you're going to ask me, I'm going to tell you
right.
that I had 100% impact bone breaches with a 650 grain arrow on Asiatic buffalo.
Wow.
Why are we bonking deer?
Right. Why aren't we just?
Why is a deer ever bonking an arrow and shaking it off?
Wow. So we've got this guy says, "Hey Ranch Fairy, my name is Anthony, and I'm using my girlfriend's Facebook, seeing as I don't have one." That being said,
Good for you.
Right? He's not missing anything. Says, that being said, my question is to you: would you mind taking me on my very first hunt ever? I shoot a recurve. Recurve. Wow, I couldn't say that for a minute. I shoot a recurve. Backstory: I'm originally from Houston, but growing up inner city, I didn't know any hunters. I went to college in Iowa, and I got into outdoors archery. I always wanted to go on a hunt, but never found anybody that could take me. I've been shooting traditional for over a year now, and I finally...
Bow, stick bow. They're fun.
Yeah. And he says, let's see here. Well, Anthony, unfortunately, I can't read the rest of your comment there because it's not letting me...
It's fine. I know what the answer is. I don't outfit. I'm sorry. The ranch is owned by our family, and it's very large, and I don't outfit. So I'm sorry about that. I wish I could. It'd be a lot of fun. There are plans through the foundation, and we've got a couple things working in the background right now to possibly do some ranch fairy hunts across the globe and do some fun stuff. We're not quite there yet, but I don't outfit. I wish I could. It'd be so fun to meet some of the people who follow the ranch fairy, and I would love to do seminars there and all that stuff. It's just not practical.
Right. So we're gonna go ahead and put this one up on the screen real quick. This is my boy Brock. Right there. Joe, stop going squirrel moments. Yes, I know.
We both have ADD. It's no good.
Dude, I have ADOS. Okay, that's called attention deficit. Oh, shiny. Okay, we got this one from Brock. I'm going to have to play with some stuff before season. Hats off to you, sir. You spoke some truth to me. We got
fantastic Ranch Fairy channel, high FOC arrow builds. First 3 videos, highly recommended.
We're gonna actually start sharing a few of those on the OO show and whatnot. We got Dan Boggs. When is there going to be Ranch Fairy hats and T-shirts?
I'm close. I have. We're soon to come out with adult arrows T-shirts and some Ranch Fairy stuff, and possibly we have one that we have teed up that says FOC, Fear of Change.
There you go.
We're gonna be pushing a few buttons.
Nice. You know, pushing buttons is great. It really is. And I'll tell you about a button I'll push here in a minute. We have, looks like B&B is going to have to start carrying stiffer arrows. I'm your guy. We got Heath who says, and weights. We got, sounds like my new arrow plan is onto something, Joseph. Yes, absolutely. I would 100% agree. Joe got a lot of arrow build. Yep, I do. We got Patrick McGregor who says, I got that same Lucky Charm shit.
Heck yeah, bro!
That thing's freaking sweet.
Can't take it not too serious, man.
That's right. No, never. And then we got Kaylin Smith. Hashtag load the front. New 2020 hashtag Logan Beach. Absolutely.
It'll be fun.
So,
it's just something to try for all you people that tinker. Here's what you need to do if you want to play with this. If you've got a setup that currently shoots, set it aside as old reliable. You can always do it.
Yeah.
Don't say, okay, well, I'm going to ship can this stuff. And... do not do that, bro.
You paid a lot for that thing, and it worked.
Right. Take the arrows that you believe in and keep them.
Yeah.
And then go play. That's the only way I found out. And I jumped off the bridge in 2014. There was no information. That's one of the reasons why I started the channel, because there wasn't any information on this.
Sure.
None, zero, zip. Just one study by Dr. Ashby, and he talked about the effectiveness, but not how to get there.
Right.
He was getting there to how to get there, but it's not about that. He was writing a formal paper to a government agency to tell them his results.
Yeah.
That's why it's written like a white paper and all the graphs and everything. And for all you millennials out there who've never lived without Excel or Google Sheets, when Dr. Ashby did those graphs and stuff in the study, it was like mind-numbing to do it. You can't just go to Google Sheets and throw it in a kind of half-assed area and it pops out the graph. It was work.
Wow. One of our guys says, "How can I get my hands on one of those visors?"
They're coming. We're working on that too.
Are they coming in hot? Tell me they're coming in hot.
They're coming in hot soon. We are currently in the stages of setting up a place to get those. So
nice. I've got a lot.
There's a lot of steps involved in that, getting all the business set up and all that stuff. So
I've got a lot of button pushing ideas, and some of the team, some of the crew, they're like, probably not, but some other people are like, dude, just send it.
I'm used to it.
For one, and respectfully, Brock is not a fan of it, but I like to say, especially when we're opening up to any of this, it's like you are watching the best damn web show, and I'm not trying to be cocky, but right there, what you're doing, man, tell me that shit's not good. But what I like to do, and I'm not trying to be cocky, but it does make us sound like we're cocky, and I'm not trying to be. What I'm trying to do is just push the envelope. Right.
I've answered the question already about 10,000 times, so just tell me what you're thinking.
Exactly. So, we like to push the envelope, and we like to push the buttons, and we like to try to do it best. And the best thing about it is, it's no secret. We have partners and we have sponsors. We don't, as OO, do not get paid one single penny out there for those that are listening. Not one, okay? But our partners, I should say, back us up 100% because they like who we are and we're loyal to them. We use their products, we love them, and we decided to work together. And that's what we do in the industry. And then we like to try to show each other and the world how we did this. So your arrow build, do not be surprised, buddy, if you see it one bit on a video coming up where, Brock freaking builds a monster beast of an arrow and shoots a whitetail with it. There will be those that say, why do you need that? There will be those that say you don't need that. But there's people like me who say, I kind of want to do it. I'm going to try it. Why not? What do you have to lose?
I've got a real short answer for why you do it. You do it for Plan B.
There you go.
So for everybody listening, Plan B is when things don't go right.
Yeah, 100%.
And listen, time in the woods is not free. It's precious. We don't all get as much as we can. We're not all the hunting. I was making fun of the hunting public guys. I was like, all y'all do is run around and hunt all the time, you idiots. And they're just really fortunate, right?
Sure.
I mean, they're out there. They hunted 3 months for turkeys. They're going to go deer hunting for solid straight. Aaron drew a tag in Wyoming for elk. Yep. I mean, they're just going to be rampaging all over the country. I don't have time like that. I got 2 kids in college and real life to live, right?
Dude.
So the time in the woods is precious. And through my own experience and having failures and having trouble in these setup situations where it's their distance is not a problem.
Right.
I mean, it is known, bro. They're not going to leave a 5-foot circle.
Right.
And I was having trouble. I start to think to myself, holy smokes. I watch all these public hunting shows, swinging out of trees and stuff, and you don't get the shot angles you want every time.
No, you don't.
And that's a Plan B situation. And I would hate to be sitting there with what I would consider to be now a mentally stressful setup and having a quarter and in shot and say, I'm going to have to shoot him behind the crease and pray to God this gut shot works.
Yep.
I don't do that. I pull over on the shoulder and I say, the humerus is about to break. And I turn it loose. So that's what I've gotten really kind of evil on some of my shot angles. My favorite shot angle on pigs right now is right there.
Going
right on the front of the bone. And I don't want to track.
Right.
It takes too long. Just roll them.
It's hot.
And I know it sounds arrogant and stuff, but I just do it a lot. And when I had my previous setups, I was responsible with them. I took the shots that I knew to take, right? And you had to get the right shot. I preferred a quartering away, 2 inches behind the crease, drive it in.
Yeah.
That's the shot I wanted every freaking time.
Yeah.
You guys on public, nah, you're not going to get that.
No.
And the elk hunters, are never going to get that shot. Call
No.
them. Never.
How many episodes of
And
elk
you're
hunting have you watched where
responsible.
that elk came straight in and they
Sure.
had no choice to either A, lay
Right.
down? I watched a kid. There's a video floating around on Facebook. I don't know if it's still out there, but this was impressive. This kid buried his arrow red knock deep in like the upper chest, lower neck area of an elk, and you hear this other elk bugle in the background, and the deer just goes.
Yeah.
How many times are you
So
going to
that
get that
spot,
chance?
it's actually a very reasonable shot on a big animal.
Very much
So
so.
elk and up. You're talking about a whole half the size of a dinner plate easy.
Right.
If you can't hit that, you shouldn't be out there anyway.
No.
But straight on, right there is a very reasonable shot. There's a ton of elk hunters out there who are solo guys who do not talk about it, and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're
There's
planning for that.
a good friend of mine. He told me, he said, I contemplate and I ask myself a lot of questions while I'm in the deer stand. And he says, as I'm literally sitting there in the deer stand, this buck came up that I wanted to shoot. And he goes, he was legitimately straight underneath me, and he went like this. He looked straight up at him. And he said he fed that arrow right through the white patch, dropped him. Because it was straight to the heart.
Yep,
and it
absolutely.
made a whole lot of sense. It's not the most ideal shot that you want, but it's a shot that you can take and drop what you want to put it right there, and he did, and he successfully dropped that critter right there.
Oh, it happens every year. It's fine. We're
Yep.
just, like I said, I'm looking back, and I'm 51 now. I've been bowing since I was 12, and for anybody who's under 35 who's on here, you didn't shoot aluminums, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
The wheels on my first compound were that big. There was 4 wheels on my first compound. It sounded like a guitar going off.
Oh, yeah. Foing.
And I was shooting a 21-17 and 145 grain Bear Razorhead. You know what never happened? We never left animals. Ever. We didn't expect to leave. There might have been some nocturnal work. But 7 years has passed, and I wasn't driving then, so I was a minor. But we didn't expect to leave arrows and animals because it didn't happen. They were 550 or 600 grains. We didn't know. I had a 10-yard pin.
Right.
Because that's how slow it was. I'm talking about shooting 160 feet per second.
Right. You got a sight window like this, and your pin is down here.
Yeah. Right. You got 2 pins.
Yep.
10 and 20.
Yeah.
And you just kind of hold over. Woo!
Hope for the best.
Right.
So, Kalen
it's
Smith.
Just an evolution where it's coming back. Back in the old days, it was cut on contact. That's all you had.
Right.
Broadheads were heavy, and the arrows were real heavy. So we'll just bring it back. Yep. It'll be fine. And the mechanical broadhead is not going away. And when they work, they're fantastic. They truly are devastating. They really are. And I'm a big fan of some of the smaller diameter. I've got a buddy who hunts all over the world. He flies for an international airline, and he shoots the little 1 3/8 Reaper. I don't know what it is.
Sure.
It's a 3-blade, but it's small.
Yep.
And he just blows. He shoots like 600 grains, but he just blows down plains game with it.
Wow.
I mean, he just blows them down. So if I had to guess, somebody will come up with the right mechanical one of these days.
Sure.
But it's going to have to be 200 grains and have adult blades on it, like .06, made out of steel.
When you say that, I've got a good friend in the industry. You may know him, and this is just going to be a shout out to him. He's the one that owns the Zeus broadhead. Have you heard of this broadhead? Yep. So, very good friend of mine. I've worked with him, and I've known him ever since before he even started Steady Form and whatnot. That would be a broadhead that I would agree with. That, if he's watching, I hope he's watching, but that's a hybrid broadhead, is what he calls, because it flies in a fixed position, but those blades come down as they make contact on harder surfaces to allow for more of a pass through, to allow more kinetic energy to be delivered where you need it, not on the bones, but in the vitals, and to come out exploding.
I've seen it.
He's got what's your thoughts on that broadhead? I know we're kind of driving away a little bit, but
it's too round. The point is,
sure.
So on hard bone impacts on an animal dropping, I don't know what I know what works,
Right.
and I just don't have a lot of confidence. I don't have any. I've shot 3 blades, and the Thunderhead was real popular forever.
Yeah.
And this is circa 1982, 5, somewhere in there when the Thunderhead came out. It was a revolution.
Sure.
But anything with a punch, round, solid, pencil-looking point on bone. Remember, I don't care about Plan A ever. Never. It's just going to have more trouble. Go take a 20 penny nail and take one and sharpen it into a blade, and then hit the other one into a piece of wood. Just do that. That's my only concern, is when stuff doesn't go right.
Right.
I think I've got some guys I met at ATA who shoot that head and torching stuff. Got it. It just, when Plan B happens, I'm not allowed for me anymore.
Right.
Dude, there's so many designs out there and all that stuff. It's amazing what people come up with.
Oh, it is.
It's fine.
100%. 100%. Let's see here. So we got Heath Cornett who says, well, hold on here. We'll back up. I'm sorry. Kalen Smith. No, I'm sorry. This is bad. Dennis Bland. Kalen Smith. I love it. Hashtag load the front. We've got Heath Cornett. XX78. Loved him. We got,
the 78.
I still have some of those. Thoughts on Slick Tricks standards? And then
they were better before they got bought. Slick Tricks a good head. I had some sent to me to play with, and I don't find them to be sharp.
Sure.
But you don't understand my sharpness either. So the Slick Tricks I've not had anyone say they've collapsed or broken or snapped yet. Yes. I know the pictures are probably out there, but I have not had anyone say that the Slick Tricks come apart. So I can't. They're steel. They're good. They don't break.
Right. Structural
integrity is good. I'm not gonna knock them.
Sure.
I mean, it's just they've got a good reputation for being effective anyway. That's all that really matters. I mean, I'm a big cut on contact guy.
You got to have
a couple of those are kind of cut on contact. So
100%. And in short, in order to have a successful hunt, and I know you don't like it, but Plan A. In order to have a successful Plan A hunt, you got to have a field tip accurate head. You got to have a sharp broadhead. You got to have accuracy, time with your bow, know your equipment, and something that flies straight. And there's a basketball inside every critter. You just got to bop that ball.
I think probably the greatest weakness in our industry right now is actually arrow tuning. Most people don't know that you can actually tune an arrow.
Sure.
So for all you guys who bear shaft, if you've never nock tuned, if you get an arrow that flies perfectly bear shaft, turn the nock a quarter turn and watch that sumbitch go in. It's unbelievable how much variability you can have if you rotate the nocks.
It is.
Mike talked to me for the 6 months before I did it.
Yep.
He was like, dude, you got to try this. I was like, nah, doesn't matter. Woo, I was wrong.
Yep.
And I'm talking tail left 2 inches.
Yep. And I do it all the time. I'll get guys where they're like, hey, dude, I'm shooting this half dozen arrows that you shot me. I was like, yeah. And he goes, they all fly right except this one. What's wrong with that one? He goes, it's going to the right. It's going left. What do I do? I'm like, well, there's a couple things we can do. First, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the nock just a little bit. Really? Yeah, dude, come on in the range, man. If I'm wrong, I'll buy it back.
Yeah, right.
And I do it, and it moves it. And they're like, wow, it's amazing. And I'm like, okay, so half the time, you got to refletch the thing because it's just shit happened and it landed on the
Or it's going to hit the cables. Yeah.
So other times, you could just turn the nock, and you're absolutely right, and you'll watch that arrow just come back into the group. Dan Boggs is a perfect example of that because he was just talking to Logan and I about it. Logan builds arrows he has a shop down there in Kentucky called BW Archery. And Aaron Mudd's got one called Muddy Creek Archery. So we all three build arrows. We all three sell bows and whatnot. So Dan comes up and says, hey, dude, it's looking good, but I got this one over here. We turn the nock, and he goes, no way. And he did it, and he goes, all right, it worked. So
yeah, it's like magic.
It is.
I mean, it's so now my arrow, once you've done all this stuff, you can't go back.
Right.
And I just broke an arrow today, and it takes me 30 minutes to build an arrow now.
Sure. Wow.
It just takes that much time. Once you get into it, I bear shaft. I mean, I spin the inserts until they're perfectly plumb and glue. I mark them and glue them in plumb with a broadhead.
Yep.
Set them aside. Next day, Then I noctune every one of them at 10 yards in my garage. And then I fletch them, and then I shoot a turbulator on there. You don't want to talk about that. That's pointy hat stuff. But I shot one today and missed and hit a tree, and it broke, and I was like, I can't just go to Cabela's and get me another one.
This isn't something you just go over and just grab off the wall.
Now.
Right.
Yeah, right. But it's worth it. The noctuning thing is magic.
Yep. It's
magic.
It is.
And if you've never bear shaft noctuned, if you get a bear shaft shooting through paper at 5 to 7 yards, and your tears get down to 50-cent piece size, a little bigger than that, maybe a 2-inch tear, start rotating the nock. Just do that first before you start trying to turn the cams and flip the wing dingers, roll this and that and the other, and do a bunch of crap. Rotate the nock. You won't believe what happens.
Sure. So real quick, we've kind of already went over our hour 20, which we both kind of expected. We both have that 80 rush shit that we're talking about. But real quick, I'm going to give out a quick shout out. And if anyone else has a quick comment or quick question, fire away right now, because we're going to go through this extremely fast. We've got go about sharpening them just as the THP video then. Question, all right?
Yep.
All right. And then we got Logan Beach. Thanks for the plug. Yo, dude, you're my boy, Blue. Okay, we got, so what's the best broadhead out there? You can only have one for the rest of your life. Asking for a friend. That's hard.
Well, Mike at Magnus has a lifetime warranty, so that's pretty good.
There you go.
Start. I would probably shoot the Grizzly or the Tough Ed because they don't break ever.
Sure.
I lose them, but they don't break.
Losing them, that's going to happen. You have the possibility of losing an arrow and a broadhead, a nock, great feathers, whatever, all the time. As soon as you let it go, you have the chance of losing it. But a buddy of mine.
I would shoot a monolith that's hand sharpenable because, in that situation, I would just shoot some monolithic broadhead that's hand sharpenable, so they just totally, I can just keep going.
Perfect. Well,
single bevel though.
Well, if we have any more comments, I just want to say thank you to everybody that engaged with us today. Ranch Fairy, 100% honored to have you on the show, man. This was great.
Thank you.
It was fun. I hope you're up to doing this again because the invite's coming. It's already there.
Okay.
So I'm absolutely down for it, man. I will shoot the shit with anybody all day long.
Taking a bunch of if you're going to get bombed with a few questions, and we'll try to do more of a Q&A with people because I'll help. I'm here to help you guys out.
Perfect.
I mean, if you're not experiencing what you think you should experience when their arrows are hitting things that are alive, that's what my whole channel's about. I'm trying to make everyone more lethal. We're trying to reduce wounding loss. The Ashby Foundation is actually partnered with Texas Parks and Wildlife as the guide for their strategy going forward for arrow setups.
Sure.
And when somebody that big decides that we know what we're talking about, it's going to get out.
Yeah.
So my channel is all about impact. I don't care. I want perfect arrow flight. I don't care about arrow speed. I don't care about your freaking color of your peep sight, which I don't shoot. Peep sight matching the riser, matching your freaking stabilizing your back bars. I don't care about that. Get the arrow flying perfect. And then my channel's about what happens when it hits something alive.
Right.
So hopefully I help a bunch of people. And I know there's going to be a bunch of people who go in there and say, that dude's insane. And that's fine.
Yeah. Hey, you know, too.
By now, I'm a ranch fairy. So I'm already out there. It's not normal.
To your comment, though, a laughable moment to your comment. And I tell this to people all the time. Hey, if you can't shoot worth a shit and you can't hunt worth a shit, at least you look good.
Yeah, that's right. Get some Kuyu on, get one of them little beanies.
That's right, dude.
And get all your stuff lined out, get all the camo matching. I've had people say, I found this arrow, but the camo doesn't match my bow. And I'm like, you need to go on another channel. The poser channel.
You mean you can't get this bee stinger in satin gray?
Oh my God. Does it fly straight? Well, not really, but it matches. Oh. Wow. Okay. There's other people for that. They're called psychologists. Don't let that just be. I mean, wow.
All right. we're going to upload this to our YouTube channel tonight, and it'll probably be airing up tomorrow if the world goes right. But that's what's going to be going down. Everybody, thank you extremely from the bottom of our hearts for joining us today on this session of
Yeah,
Talking
thank you.
Tides on the show of Outdoors Obsessions. Ranch Fairy on YouTube, ranchfairy.com. Check him out on Facebook. The dude obviously knows what he's got going on because he's got a really nice skull up there hanging on the wall. He's got some dead critters, and he's got some awesome things going out there. So by all means, make
Thank
sure
you.
you guys get out there and hit him up. And you can tell him that we sent you, or you can just say, hey, dude, what's going on, man? So again, Ranch
Exactly.
Fairy, thank you for joining us. And to all of our OO Show fans and Ranch Fairy fans, we hope you guys had a great day. And we'll see you here
Thank
next
you.
time on Talking
Be
Tides.
safe out there. Yep.